I came to Virginia in 1980. And at that time I had a dream. How could myself, with the collaboration of all Muslims, remove the negative impression about Islam? Mass was established to make Muslims a part of everything in this country. And now if you look at the new generation in Mass, they are the people who are carrying the same message. They are my fruit. So I'm proud, really.
So I joined Mass in 1993, and it was formed in 1993. I didn't realize this, that I was one of the first few Mass members.
I came to the States back in 1994, and the Muslim community back then was a very small community.
Hassan, can you open this? My high school experience was unique because I remember I was one of two hijabis, and I really wanted the opportunity to be the best Muslim for people around me.
Well, actually, I found Mass really interesting. I was in my economics class, Econ 100, and I saw this Muslim guy. So first day I went and introduced myself, became friends. Every single class, the guy's late. Can't you just come 15 minutes earlier? And he goes, no, I go for Dhuhr, 1 o'clock. I'm like, why don't you tell me? I want to pray too. So I started becoming one of those guys who's always 15 minutes late.
As somebody who came from Egypt, it was a quiet experience walking into a room and find 5 or 6 or 7 brothers who come from different backgrounds, different ethnicities.
And it was very eye-opening to me. It was a solution to a long-term problem, being able to feel like you belong.
Currently, Mass has 40 chapters across the country. And in the last 30 years, we were able to build about 35 community centers and youth centers across the country with about another 4 or 5 different offices.
Mass was able to define a very proactive way of thinking of what type of future they wanted for Muslims in the United States and what type of future they wanted for people in the United States as in regards to the contribution that Islam would make to their lives. And I think that Mass has done a great job in making sure that young people got as excited about its vision as the founders of Mass did.
Mass genuinely believe that investment that goes into young people is the most important priority for our community and for the future of our community.
The local chapter here supports various scouting endeavors, and including several Girl Scout troops. The goal of Girl Scouts is really to empower girls and teach them leadership qualities, basically identifying issues in the community and then figuring out what steps they can do to address those issues and improve their community.
Boy Scouts, it's all about helping your community. Our troop is essentially a youth group that works with Mass. Our goal is to help empowering the youth, the Muslims of our community.
Here in Detroit, we have a program called Family Odyssey. We try to meet at least once a month in different venues. Sometimes we go on a hike, sometimes we put on a play, but that really puts into practice this idea of intergenerational connections and intergenerational learning.
I cannot speak enough about having a second home, and it allowed us a space for Islamic upbringing. For a while, my kids didn't know any other place, either our home or the center.
There are certain places in your childhood where it's like the really exciting place to go to. You ask anyone, it's the amusement park. Six Flags, Coney Island, and I was there around the opening of the Mass Youth Center. The Mass Youth Center is the first Muslim youth center in the country, and that place soon became one of those hallmark, exciting places to be. It started out with just an idea to have a place where the needs of youth are prioritized in an Islamic space.
I think the doors opened up probably, that 2001 time period, and obviously I don't think anybody ever foresaw an effect 9/11 would have on the Muslim community. I remember very clearly, it was like the second or third week of school, freshman year, a young girl in the back of the class raising her hand, telling the teacher, hey ma'am, I think the Twin Towers are on fire.
Looking at the World Trade Center, we understand that a plane has...
I just saw a huge ball of fire on top.
Young Muslims really felt the Islamophobia. It really got to it affected them in terms of mental health, depression, and really feeling like they didn't belong.
The 9/11 attacks by al-Qaeda terrorists 2 decades ago ignited a wave of anti-Muslim sentiment across the country.
Every Muslim is a terrorist, period. Right now. Shut your mouth. Yes, I don't want to hear your mouth.
It's so much pressure for a young person to feel like they always have to be super nice and super kind to everybody, lest they'll be called a terrorist or, someone who's evil or violent. And when our group is constantly being attacked or being put down upon, it gets to you after a while.
So what my family went through after 9/11 was really the harsh crackdown that occurred, particularly on people that were not legal living in the States. My father had been here for many years, unfortunately without any paperwork or immigration status, and it became an immigration situation. I know for us it was a very difficult experience, and I think it was a very difficult time for the greater Muslim community. There was just a massive amount of people that were ripped apart, families ripped apart because of that crackdown that took place. NYC played, I think, a really important role for me right at the time that my father was arrested. My spiritual journey began. It was a place to really understand our faith, identity, and our purpose.
9/11 affected the mindset of the American Muslims in a way that it is no longer an option for us as a community to stay only focusing on our community from within, that we need to go out and speak up and speak out and introduce ourselves.
The pressures of 9/11 specifically pit the Muslim identity against the American identity. And while many Muslims spent all of their efforts in trying to defend the part about being American, Mass actually still put a lot of emphasis on the Muslim part and showed what it meant to be a Muslim American.
What does it mean to be a Muslim American? I think of someone who is fully Muslim, all the principles and values of Islam totally imbibed within you, and yet somebody who's fully living in America, who understands the culture, understands the reality on the ground, and is living life here because they want to.
Mass promotes this idea of being Muslim and American in such a holistic way, an easy to understand way. We're constantly being reminded of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is expected from us, what it means to be part of the community. And in all of those teachings, we also know that you're also going to be interacting with people from this culture, and that's part of our culture. So, alhamdulillah, Muslim American society has very clearly taught us that those two identities are not in conflict with one another necessarily.
Tarbiya is an amazing concept, and it means growth.
Tarbiya is how to train people, families, to be a real model, a role model for Islam in this country.
We are Muslims in the way that we deal with and engage society on a daily basis. So faith in action is literally how you live your life in a positive light. You also have to engage and bring the message of Islam, the message of peace, the message of goodness in this life.
I think we need to raise our children to understand why they believe what they believe. To understand that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not an arbitrary act of becoming religious. It's a fundamental act of living life with purpose. I think we need to associate belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the practice of Islam strongly with strong moral ethics. We should encourage them to ask probing questions. We should encourage critical thinking.
So Mass, as an organization, you will have imperfections. And so with that, then you openly discuss the challenges. And so many years ago, being not Arab background, I brought up this issue that, hey, Mass, at some level right now, is the male Arab society. We brought that thinking into Mass and said, all right, here are certain things that we can do right now. We can have an immediate change. Early on, a lot of Mass members were Arabs. Half the programming is in Arabic. I'm like, that's not happening. Let's change that. From the top down, you have a decision. Everything has to be in English.
Oftentimes what happens when you have kids, men continue doing their work. Women get left behind. So we started, one, integrating and making accommodations for young children. And two, we started modeling a new way of being. And so when we'd go to these conventions, husbands and wives would go, and the husbands would also participate in caretaking. What we shifted was the importance of fathers' roles in caretaking, and that was different. And people noticed. A lot of the young people started noticing, if we want female empowerment and female involvement, we need to make sure that they're at the table. They weren't just talking the talk, they were walking the walk.
So you change languages, you change the way the programs are done to be more inviting to the sisters, to other nationalities or other ethnic backgrounds. And you start doing small changes and you start bringing in these longer term changes so that you hope over the next 20, 30 years, you'll start making a shift.
One of the biggest challenges that young people are facing right now is the lack of deep relationships. They think they have lots of friends based on like social media and online, but I think they are missing those really solid relationships across the board when it comes to different age groups.
I feel like a lot of girls, some of them might be feeling depression, some people might be feeling anxiety. I feel like that's mostly because of the community that they have around them.
As an 18-year-old, one of the biggest challenges is trying not to get mixed up with the wrong crowd.
Mass is the solution to all of these problems. It's providing a friendly environment by which youth can associate with other like-minded individuals. They need that suhbah, they need that connection with other people who are struggling and striving to stay on the same path, the path of Islam. So that group is really, really important.
We want to ensure that we prepare, again, a new generation of American Muslims that is equipped to overcome the challenges we face as a community and we face as a country. And when I look through the last 2 decades and seeing the children who were literally running around at the age of 3 and 4 years old in the youth center are becoming today, literally becoming today, the board members who are leading this effort.
I started coming to the Mass Youth Center when I was around 4 or 5 years old, and yes, now today I'm the chairman of the board of Mass Brooklyn Staten Island, which oversees 3 Mass centers. To have a young person on a board in and of itself is kind of an unheard of thing across masajids.
Mass as a movement trying to give root to Islam and trying to raise a generation of young Muslim men and women who understand their deen and are effective and are leaders is necessary. It is through Mass that I learned true leadership.
I'm in this role of teaching others. It feels uncanny. And I think for a lot of young people, we think, oh, these traditional aunts and uncles, they're so old-fashioned in the way that they do things. And we forget that they built these institutions from the very beginning when there was nothing. And if it wasn't for them building those initial institutions, we wouldn't have been able to do our work now.
I can't believe it's been 30 years since Mass has been established, mashallah. I feel blessed. It makes me proud that I'm part of a longer legacy of da'wah. And I'm just deeply grateful that more and more people get to benefit. I would say, Jazakumullah khairan, you have really established something so important to really plant more roots for Islam to grow and flourish.
Thank you for helping me learn a lot about Islam.
Thank you for all the hard work, all the sacrifice, all the tears.
It really just proves to you that with the right intentions, with the right goals, and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by your side, you could really do anything.
And I think it inspires me, and I know many of our leaders today, to think about how are we envisioning that and strategizing that and creating the next seeds that we lay to have the fruits bear in 30 years of growth of this da'wah.